Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We're going to be going through quite a bit today on ACA because last minute things always change. And then we're going to be talking about matchmaking. All right, let us begin with the next big step, which of course is next webinar is actually on April 1st. It is not going to be a joking day, but a very important day. April 1st is the final day, by the way, for your ACAs to be uploaded, but that's fine. We'll get there. All right. So for today, we're going to have, I'm going to first talk about the ACA changes that has happened over the last, feels like 4 minutes, but it's been about a week. And, the changes that are coming. And then Paul is going to talk to you about the TIN matching and Social Security name verification system. We're going to talk today about ACA. So let's start with the changes that have happened. We haven't released these changes yet, but they're coming. So one of the big things that we need to do now is under the covered individuals, you have to add the same person. So even though Daniel Martin is up here, you need to add Daniel Martin down here as well. That's so that we can take it, and be able to have places where the employee is no longer with them, but because he's passed away or something, but the dependents are still covered. So again, we want to make sure that you understand that change has to be made. So you're going to have to go through each one of these and make sure you have added them as a covered individual with the proper check boxes specified in each of the months. So it's not too hard. It's just, time consuming to go through, and do that. Now, if you've already submitted this year's if you already submitted this year's ACA and it was already accepted, but not accepted with errors, it was just straight out accepted, to just let it be. It's okay that not everything is super perfect this year because the government is kind of expecting it. We just want to make sure that everybody is has the understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish in the ACA portion. But again, the big change is making sure that you add the person to this list here of different individuals. So if you notice, everybody's last name is Flintstone today, just so that everybody's SSN is the same number. That way, nobody is, everybody has the same data. We're not going to have a problem. But, you want to make sure that you do have these things corrected. Also, we added whether this is a B or a C. It could be both if you have people that both, but this is the list of what will be reported. So if I have, a couple in the 1095B, I don't know if this data is really great. But when I go to then to say the tax year for the, even for the reporting for the B, and I do the load employees, it just shows me the two employees that have the 1095B checked. Okay. So you can go through that and make sure that you get all those things checked. So that way, if you have to run this 4, 5, 6 times to get it right, you don't have to make sure you got all 70 some checked in that second box. So that was just a big addition to make it a lot easier to go through the tax reporting. So then, again, once you're done, you have that going, you can generate the e-file and load your employees. You can select them all, and then you can process them. Now, again, we don't have, like I said, my ACA data is kind of screwy, but that is what basically the new scenario looks like for everything. You should be able to go through and make this very smooth and simple to use. We're hoping that everything should now operate with adding that employee as one of the covered individuals, should operate the way the IRS is expecting the data to come in on now with the electronic filing. But let's say, for instance, you went and submitted your file and you waited, 45, 50 minutes and you got back a response And the response happens to say that your file was accepted, but it had errors. So in order to correct errors on an ACA file, you actually have to upload another correction file to the IRS. So this is what the ACA correction system is for, is so that you can generate a proper correction file. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of how this thing is put together. The looks have got to get, we don't have everything, beautiful just yet, but you can get the gist of what's going to happen. So you're going to have the manifest file that you sent, so you can open the manifest file. And then you need to open the data file. Now we get this data from one of our customers who had already submitted it and got errors. And then there's an error file, and that's what this AK. So when you get on the IRS site and they say there's errors, they have a link where you can download the file that contains what is wrong with your data file. So we're going to go ahead and open that up, and we'll go ahead and load all these files. Now I've scrubbed this data too, so everybody's last name is Flintstone and everybody's social security numbers just straight ones. But you get the idea. This was actual people that was sent. These were their settings that was sent up for it. I've changed their addresses too, so nobody can, so we shouldn't have any scrub data if you're worried about it for the person who who this data is for or from. But then basically you come in here and there is going to be, there'll be a list of what was wrong with it. We haven't printed that yet, but you can read through that and you'll see over here, there'll be a little spot where it will show what the message was for that person, or the multiple messages. Sometimes there's more than one. So sometimes it's just a matter of there wasn't check boxes for everybody. So in this case, there was. This is the data that we compiled from your ACA originally, but there's something wrong. Sometimes it's just the social security number might be wrong. So you just need to make a change. So we're going to go ahead and make the change to the social security number, and we're just going to make it be, all twos. Tab off it. Now, here's the thing that's important to remember as well. When you believe you have everything for this person ready, you click on the submit correction. That will change the status over here to be corrected. And what will happen is as you go through each one of those, there's no saving this. So this is a one-time shot. So if you have like 50 to do, you make sure you have the time to do it so you don't have the issue where if you walk away, something gets goofy, so that you can get through there and get these people properly corrected. There's just a lot of internal things that we're hiding or providing here for that to happen. But so you're going to have to go through and Daryl didn't like these didn't have anything set, but because they were specified, they need to have something set so we can submit it. All of these things, as you'll see, just remain in memory. So if I don't create a correction file when I'm all done, I've lost all my updates and changes. So let me say that again. Once you get this finished and you have all the ones that are marked as corrected that you need to resubmit, you have to say create correction file. That will generate the files to upload just like the originals to the IRS for the correction. So it's a little bit of the thing you have to remember is this is a important thing for you to. Each record has a it's kind of complicated to explain, but let me see if I can do words to it justice. Each record you submit, so the original set of records you submit, get a magic ID internal or some internal ID that the IRS has. The only way you can change that record is by specifying that magic ID for that person's record. So then if you make a correction, so let's say we uploaded this correction to Daryl Flintstone and to Jacob Flintstone. If we updated we sent these two corrections, then Daryl and Jacob will now have a brand new updated ID in the original or for the file. So if something during that part was rejected or wasn't rejected but was accepted and still had an error, if I need to correct it, I need to open the corrected manifest file, the corrected data file, and the corrected error file for Daryl. But if when I resubmitted this, if something, you get the idea that you got to follow the pathway. So the last one you submitted has to be the one you use to make the corrections to, because there's a sequential chain of changes that need to be maintained by the IRS to make sure that all of the things are going to be done. So I hope I explained that well. Maybe not. If you wait for when the video comes out, I'll probably try to have a little. Nah, I'm not. I gotta get this video out. But anyways, the idea here is make sure you have those changes properly kept track of. Make sure you keep track of every manifest and data file you send, as well as any error files you download. It's going to be really important for this to be successful in the next the next month or so, trying to get through and getting everybody right. The other thing to remember is this doesn't change the original record in Cogitate. So if there was something in here you missed that you had to make a correction to, we're simply making the correction to the file in this screen. But then you're going to also want to do and go through here and make that same correction to that person here to make sure that these are set, appropriately. And then just, I guess, the last note that I have is because this is an annualized piece, but you may have hired somebody in January, but you're reporting last year's plan. Make sure you do not include new hires when you're sending your original file up. So, people who were hired, people who didn't work in the calendar year you're submitting the healthcare for, make sure you do not have, in the beginning, even though you marked them as the 1095B or C, make sure they don't have it. Or, it's, you can run it a variety of different ways, but the idea is make sure you're only reporting the people that have worked during the course of the previous year.
Okay, I am going to talk to you about two new features that we are going to be releasing. One of them is the VS verification, and the other one will be your TIN verification for your vendors. The first one I want to talk about is the SSN verification. So if you go under payroll, it'll be under the utilities. It'll be called SSN verify. So what this does is this loads all of your employees that do not have the status Z, so all active and inactive. And you can select any employees you want to include in the verification file. And it also, if you want to include all your dependents, so you can verify your dependents' social security numbers if you want. This tool is meant for, as we talked about before, if you got new hires or want to verify the social security number of your employees, making sure that the name you have matches what the government has for their name. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a file. I could just select them all, and I'm going to create a verification file. And it gives me an error because that's saying employee number 2's SSN is invalid. And if you look at employee 2, it's blank. So you can go into employee mate and fix that. So just we do track errors. We do verify social security numbers before the file to make sure they're at least in the correct format. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect her, and I'm going to create the verification file. It's just a simple text file. And now I'm going to go ahead and create one with the dependents. And it looks like somebody's SSN for employee number 1 is invalid. So I'm just going to go ahead and deselect him as well. And then I'm going to create that one. So now I have two files, one that has dependents included in it and one that just has the employees. So once you're done creating those files, you can look at them if you want. They're not going to tell you much, but you can go click on this SSN VS login and it'll take you right to the Social Security Administration. I'm going to go ahead and log in. On the homepage, last webinar, a couple webinars ago, we showed how to request service for it. So assuming that you have requested service, you will click on this one, the Social Security number. So what you can you can click on this to manually enter in Social Security numbers, but for today's purposes, we are going to submit an electronic file. So what you're going to want to go ahead and do is it'll give you you click on that. There you got a bunch of terms and conditions. And then it'll be before you start. I'm going to hit continue. And then this is the page that'll come to it. So if you see on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll enter in your EIN number. So you type in your EIN and then you can choose the file. I'm going to go to my downloads where I've saved it, and either one of these work. And then you go ahead and hit submit. I don't need to print the page. And it's just been submitted. You can print the page if you want to know your confirmation number. You can if you want to, but then how to read the results is you go back to the BSO main menu. You go ahead and re-click on the verification service, but this time we're going to go to the review status and retrieval information. So you could put in your tracking number, you could put in a date range, or you could do like I usually do and go to all submissions. Now, if you have a lot of these over the course of years, you may not want to do this. You could just put a date range. But you could see this is the one I submitted today, and it's still in process. It usually takes about 1 to 2 business days to process. And these are my prior submissions, and you can download the response file. So that's what you're going to want to do is when they're verified. See, none of these are obviously verified because all the SSNs should be invalid. But it'll also tell you how many are deceased in case if you happen to not realize that somebody's dependent was deceased. So ideally, you should see 74 records and 74 verified. So now what to do when you have downloaded the test file. Once you have downloaded the test file, let me minimize that and go back into ProFund. We have back in the SSN VS Verify, we have a second tab called Read Results. And for that, all you do is click the Load Results file. In my downloads, I have one of these verified files. It'll look like a big long string just like this, and it'll read it in, and it'll say if it hasn't been issued, if it's not on file. So it also checks the date of birth. If it finds the SSN and the name matches, it'll also check the date of birth to make sure the date of birth matches the name and the SSN. If you choose to put that, we automatically include that in the file, so that'll be there. So ideally, all these should give you a something that's verified. I think it just says verified if everything checks out. So you can verify all your employees and their dependents. I think the other file I have is just the employees, so of type employee. So that's a very useful tool to verify, especially when you get new hires, to verify that their SSN matches their name that they're giving you. So the second tool that we have that the IRS has provided us is to match your 1099, your vendors matching their TIN numbers for the 1099 upload. I know a lot of people had issues where the name didn't match the TIN given, so this will help you verify that all your vendors have correct IRS information. So this list loads all the vendors that are marked to get a 1099, whether that be MASC or NEC. So to get started, you just go through your list and select different vendors. We validate the TIN number. So if it's improperly entered in, we will catch most of the issues with that. But for now, I think I have to just do the first couple. And you just go ahead and click a verification file. I'm going to save it to my, and it's generated. So if I go into my downloads, you'll see it. It just says 1099 vendor bulk file 1 of 1. Each file can hold up to, I think they said 10,000 records. It was either 10,000 or 100,000. And I doubt that you'll have more than that many records to verify, so there'll probably only be ever one file. But once you have your file generated, you can go ahead and click on the IRS. Once you click on the TIN, it should take you right to here. And there's the interactive session where you can manually enter in. If you just want to verify like one, you can type in the EIN or the SSN, the business name, and that you can if you want to. That is for if you just want to do one at a time. If you want to do the bulk session, you just click the bulk session, choose the file, and type in my email address, and you go ahead and click submit. That's all you gotta do. It will give you a tracking number and a date, and then it'll send you, if you put it down in email, it'll send you an email saying the results are available to view in your inbox. So what that means is, if like you're on this screen at the top where it says mailbox, it will show up. I think that this is an older one, but it'll show up here in your I think they call it the SOR mailbox. And you click on that, and you can go ahead and click download the results. I have already done so, but use download the results, and in your downloads they'll show up here. This is the, I think that's the same file. So once you have the results, to read the results, you'll go back into the ProFund and go into the read results, and you'll go ahead and load that results file, and it will tell you the results of the TINs, whether the name and combination don't match, whether it hasn't been issued, or whether they do match. I don't think I have one. And then of course sometimes, and I purposely included in here, if a vendor exists twice in the list, then they will they'll throw an error on the second one. So it's just a useful tool to help verify your vendors. So next year when you have to file, you can get the correct vendor name with the correct TIN. And that's something you may have to ask your vendor for an updated W-9 on that.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.